I'm going to start recording and then we'll kick this off. All right, good evening. It's January 16th, 2024, and this is a meeting of the Bolton Advisory Committee. Okay, we're continuing our review of the FY25 town budget. First up on our agenda tonight is Brian Stearns, who is our veterans agent. He's not here yet, but our second item on the agenda is the Historical Commission, and we have Bob Bush here and Alice here, so I think maybe we'll just move on to agenda item 2.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay.
All right. Okay, can everyone see that? This is the budget.
Yep.
Now, for the advisory committee, Don Cole actually took Ninotchka's spreadsheet and added this column over on the right, which is the year-to-date expenses, just as a handy reference when we're looking through the numbers. Okay. So we've got to go all the way down here. Historical Commission. Okay.
Okay.
If you can just quickly walk us through what you have in the budget here.
Okay. Well, basically, our budget covers a bunch of very minor expenses. For example, sometimes we'll do work in a cemetery and we'll buy some supplies, but that's all very short money. The big expense that we have upcoming is for signage for the East End Historic District that's in process on the east side of town. Where that stands right now is we've completed the application. It's been submitted to Mass Historical. We got feedback from it in December. It's being reworked right now, and I expect that it'll be resubmitted by the end of this month. And the big unknown is the amount of time that they're going to take to process it and then pass it on to Department of Interior and then the Department of the Interior to process it. That's a long story to introduce the fact that the bulk of our planned expenditures was going to be for signage for the district. The plan is we would put up nominally 3 signs. They run about $2,000 a piece. So that basically would consume all of our budget. The question is a little bit open as to whether we're going to get it approved, when it's going to be approved, but I'm quite confident we'll have it approved in 24. I'm sorry, in the FY25 budget.
And that's $6,000 for signage. Is that somehow split between your purchase of services and supplies?
It is, but it's a very nominal thing. We don't the vendor. It depends on how we get the final quote from the vendor as to whether it's actually broken out that way. Basically, we go to a vendor for a turnkey installation. We say we want 3 signs. We tell them where they're located. We tell them what's on it, and then they take it from there. They fabricate the signs, and they do the on-site installation work. And exactly how they divide it is a bit of an unknown in advance. So generally, when we get the bill, we then slot it into the budget to match.
And traditionally, can you just remind us what went into your purchase of services in the past?
I'm sorry, did you say that again?
Can you remind us what went into your purchase of services line in the past?
In general, it's been sort of the same thing. We've done several memorials. For example, last year we did a memorial at Persons Park where we procured benches that were subsequently installed there. And so we had both the material and the installation. We faced exactly the same issue with how to reconcile that in the budget, as Ninotchka can describe. But again, it comes from the vendor as basically a bottom line number. And so we apply it against the budget as we receive it.
Hey, Bob, is this the last historical district that you're looking at, or is there another one after this?
Nope. This is the last. This is the third and final.
Bob, would it be fair to say that you're not going to spend this the $6,000 in FY 2024?
That's unclear, to be quite honest with you. We don't have a handle on exactly what this schedule is going to be. So there's a chance that we would wind up at the end of this fiscal year with some leftover budget that could either be redeployed to a different memorial, as an example, the fire station, if in fact that does come down, or if we obviously don't consume it, then we would wind up returning it to the town.
Right. Okay, it's kind of an either or, 2024 or 2025.
Right, and since there's no mechanism to carry over budget, there really is no other option that I'm aware of that we could use that would make sense.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, if not, is there a motion to approve the Historical Commission budget?
I move we approve the Historical Commission budget.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Don,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. All right, easy enough. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks, Bob.
joining.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. Great. Let's see. Moving right along. Has Brian joined us yet? Okay. Well, fortunately, Chief Legendre is here. So I guess we can just move right on to the fire EMS budget. Let's see. $230. Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good and yourself?
Good, good. Thank you for joining. Okay, do you want to take it from the top and walk us through your budget?
Absolutely. So just to break down each one, we've had a couple changes to prior accounts. The department head contractual price went up as negotiated, actually up this year. The wages and inspections, since we've had people in the station more, we're now covering the station 24 hours a day. We were able to eliminate, I know it's a small line item, but we were able to eliminate that $750 from the budget this year, because we do have people in and around the station 24 hours a day. So those late afternoon inspections that were needed from the call personnel are covered by the per diem personnel on duty. Again, contractually with the one full-time firefighter, that represents his base salary, not inclusive of any stipends, etc. That actually comes out from the 5115 line, because each full-time firefighter would have different stipends based on education, based on certifications, etc., etc. So we keep the base in the wages per permanent firefighter. Next line item 5115. That's where a bulk of our work and payment comes from. That is our training pay for all fire and EMS, call coverage, per diem coverage of an EMT. The stipends, as I've said, we have a couple new stipends built in with the last contract that is set to expire June 30th of 2024. So these are representative of the increase in that line item. The EMT cadet program has remained unchanged. We do support the cadet instructor, year 2-3 instructor, in year 1, which is typically the 10th or 11th grade basic EMT class in that line. Any questions in that section I could clear up?
Curious, I saw in the notes in your budget submission, this is the 5115 line is for an additional 2 or 3 firefighters slash EMTs, is that right?
So I was going to present the straight up budget first, and then my deputy Dana Amendola will be signing on momentarily. That's going to address the prospect of adding additional full-time members. Is that acceptable?
Are we having more fires, or is there sufficient work?
So when we look at the fire department, we're not just fighting fire. Our call volume has continually gone up. We're handling EMS, fire, hazardous materials. We are seeing our incidents go up. This past year, we did 1,265 calls. That's not inclusive of any inspections, any site visits. That is straight calls for emergency response.
Okay.
We've seen. I'm sorry.
No, I just saying. Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay. So that
Probably I was on one of those at one point, but and you guys have been great.
So Jeff, I think I misunderstood or something. Have you captured the increases you're requesting in these numbers, or are they not yet captured?
The under FY25, they're not captured. The next bracket over, so we could talk a separate conversation. I captured those in that additional funds outside the bracket. Do you have those with a bottom line of 982,309?
982.
Yeah.
That's in the actual departmental budget. It's not on the master spreadsheet.
Oh,
Okay. So no, currently what you have right now is does not include that discussion.
Okay. All right. So the $57,000 increase is for additional stipends, and you had a couple other things in there.
That is correct. So the additional stipends were, give me one moment. EMTs, all EMTs now receive an annual stipend. That was not in any previous budget. That is brand new. It's $2,750 for anybody certified as an EMT. And what we have also done, it's also been done in the contract, is each level receives their own pay rate now. Where we used to have a lieutenant stipend, a captain stipend, there is a flat hourly wage attached to a paramedic, firefighter, paramedic, EMT, firefighter, et cetera, for 6 new stipends for fire prevention officer, 1 fire prevention officer 2, fire officer 1, fire officer 2, fire instructor 1, fire instructor 2. Given the number of members that carry those stipends is representative of why this line item has gone up.
Okay. And I noticed there's no change in your salary line. Is that just because that hasn't been negotiated yet?
That is correct. My contract ends June 30th. So we haven't negotiated the next contract if the town chooses to do such.
Right.
So I do not have an accurate number to plug in there.
Right. So Ninotchka, how do we typically capture that? Do we leave this as is, and then there's a line in, I think, in Don's budget, the compensation?
Yeah, he has a compensation reserve line item. I'm not sure what will be captured in there this year, but yeah, that's kind of the typical.
Right. Okay.
Unless, Jeff, you can get that done pretty soon.
I think it should be pretty quick, Ninotchka. We'll get everybody back and hopefully get it done quick.
Okay. Okay. And any other questions on the upper section of the fire EMS budget?
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, Greg Myers, just a quick one back on the comment about switching to kind of a grade-based approach this year, it driving a lot of the increase in the 5115 line item. Do you feel that that's sort of a one-time adjustment in pay grades that when we carry forward to next year and the year after, we will kind of normalize that out and we won't see a similar...
I believe now that we've graded everybody out, we'll see the typical increases based on negotiations with the town, but this should kind of have leveled it out with this one big jump all at once.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if we're good on that section, can you walk us through the lower section?
Absolutely. So we don't see a ton of change in purchasing. Purchase of service remain the same from the prior year of 2024 or this year. Again, regulated, we saw a little bounce last year with needs of services increased through there. We do our annual hose testing, service the self-contained breathing apparatus, and other maintenance items. ALS service, we are seeing a tremendous drop in that. When we actually took over 3 years ago, we were at $30,000. We're down to $12,000. Again, getting into staffing and more paramedics in the station. We're continuing to see that down. Just for an example, if you give me one moment, please. 3 years. Here we go. FY20. We spent $23,200 for 61 outside ALS calls. Decreased that the following year to 40. Decreased that again. Even last year down to 11 calls that we needed outside ALS. And so far, this current half year, we've only requested outside ALS 3 times. So we're seeing our service be productive in that line item.
Chief,
Go
I'm
down.
sorry, what does ALS stand for?
Absolutely. Advanced life support or paramedics.
Thank you.
So, yep. So we're providing them more and more within our station, so that line keeps going down to the point I was actually a little shocked that it was only 3 times this for the past 6 months that we had to call an outside agency. Other than that, they were handled by our own per diem paramedics within the station. Coastal billing, while we see an increase in the revenue, the contractual price of 5% for them processing our medical bills does go up. So that's why we see a little jump with the coastal billing. Electric remains unchanged. Repairs remain unchanged. Training remains unchanged. Supplies, unchanged. Operating supplies. We did see a little jump that was for station maintenance of some technology. Gasoline fluctuates as we know, up and down. Diesel, we're running right about the same gallonage that we have been. Automotive without change. Uniform, this is another contractual. There was an increase of $200 per member under the CBA. So that's why we see the jump within the uniforms, and also an increase in we buy 2 sets of protective equipment every year. We saw a 18 to 20% increase on each set. So that's representative of that increase within the uniforms. Dues and memberships, unchanged. Fire ponds, unchanged. Recognition, unchanged. And equipment is unchanged from prior years. Any questions I can clarify or clarify any points?
I was curious on the coastal medical billing. I assume there's something somewhere in another part of the budget that shows that we're receiving some kind of revenue reimbursement for these things?
Yes.
Okay.
We, in the past month, I mean, it flexes. In the past 30 months, we're showing a net of over 200,000, 30 months that we've collected. We have a project ongoing to review all of the collection rates that are going on, but that is something current that we have just finished up, and I can tell you.
Great.
Jeff, I have a question for you on the ALS services.
Yes.
You know, if we spent 3,000 or so in fiscal year 23, and we spent about 1,700 so far this fiscal year, I realize we don't want to cut this too close because you never know year to year, you know, what's going to happen. But if that were to drop to 10,000 for FY25, would that be reasonable, or is that not prudent?
Hopefully this will make you happy. I was going to suggest we actually change that to 8,000.
All right.
Great.
Okay, good.
I didn't want to detract from what we had on the paper, but I was going to suggest we make a change that to 8,000 for next year.
Okay.
After really reviewing the numbers and pulling every month data. Last week we were able to look at a lot of the financials, what we actually put out, and to be quite honest, I didn't realize it was only 3 times. So I would feel very comfortable moving that to $8,000.
Okay, great.
Hey, Bob, Jeff, I have a question, might go the other way, so I apologize for the spill some cold water on. I know, Jeff, you a little later, we're going to talk about the proposal to add some additional firefighters. Of the line items we're staring at, 5200 all the way to the bottom here, how many are sensitive to the number of employees? Like, for example, will training go up, uniforms go up? In other words, do we need to come back after we decide on the number of employee increase and relook at, you know, this 20 or so line items?
Yes, so uniforms would go up. Training would not go up.
Anything else you see as you know, moving a bit because of the number of employees?
I'm just reviewing. Want to make sure I'm giving you the most accurate. Really, you're going to see a jump in uniforms because they already have a contractual price for full-time firefighters, what they would receive. Training mostly is done in-house. We do go to the Massachusetts Fire Academy. We may see some backfills for some shifts if somebody goes on duty. So there would be no overtime paid, but the time to go, and we'd have to fill their shift, would be the 2 biggest areas that we may see an increase. Not a tremendous amount by the numbers we're looking at right now, but there would be increases in those 2 areas.
Got it.
So purchase the service because we'd have to do physicals and physical agility tests.
Okay, but hard to estimate at this point because we don't know how many firefighters we're going to increase. But your take, at least at this point, it would be relatively minor.
Correct. $1,100 uniforms per year per firefighter full time, and then physical agility test. You give me some latitude, we'll
Sure.
call that $1,000, so roughly $2,100. The physical and physical agility test is a one-time, and annually will be a uniform negotiated price. But currently the contract is $1,100.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks. Good answer.
Thank you.
What is it we do with the fire ponds, Chief?
So we do not have municipal water in
Yep.
town.
Yep.
So we maintain them. We make sure that the dry hydrants are accessible in repair. If there's any repairs needed, that's what we do. If we need to dig out a pond, we do that. We've been cycling through them every year. We pick a project. The last one was new piping and swivels for the 4-bush mill fire pond, and we continually go around town and check those, and that's what that is for.
Okay. No, I see we haven't spent anything on them so far this year. Is that something, are we gonna spend that money in the spring, or is this maybe a little high?
If you do one pond is over $20,000. One
No
complete
kidding.
pond.
All
Yeah.
right.
So that is representative of one pond, or we can choose to hold off 1 year, like we did last year, and replaced piping at 3 locations because it was cracked due to weather or environmental reasons, and we did it that way.
Well, Jeff, are you doing anything with the fire pond?
Yep, the next one is the one on Waterquatic. We have to dig it out, so that's going to be the spring, and it'll probably be the full $20,000.
Okay.
Chief Legendre, on coastal medical billing, I see it's only run $5,000 this year so far. Is it usually triple that in the spring or something? I can't imagine it is, but I see actual in 2023 was 21,000.
Correct. It's when the I'm not sure what invoices have been filed through so far. It's typically about $1,200 a month. And
Well,
that's
right
on-
now we're showing $4,892 expended through December.
Yep.
Right.
And I mean, there are also a number of other line items where we're only at a quarter or less of what has been expended in the FY24 budget. So are these items going to be, we're going to make up the difference, and there'll be bills applied to some of these line items, because there seems to be, at least from this stage, we're about halfway through the year.
Correct.
And we're not anywhere near halfway in some of these accounts.
Yes. So coming in the spring, typically we have our pump testing. We have Jaws of Life testing. We have some big ticket items that are on an annual basis towards the spring time that we'll see that expended.
Is that why repairs is also running quite low?
That is correct. That one's going to be tricky this year. We do have a couple new trucks coming in, so the repairs should be less. This has been based on historical with transmission changes, checks, fluid changes, pumps, air systems all get checked, so we get the most out of our trucks.
Actually, speaking of trucks, are we still on schedule for February delivery of the truck that shall not be named?
So we are, it's going to be moving fast and quick. We have a final tomorrow on the mini pumper, and then we expect the Seagrave in March.
All right, so it's March now. It was February. You had
It was February. It did get moved 3 weeks. I actually have a presentation for you, Stan, from the other night with all the dates on it and when they're all coming in.
Great.
All right, any other questions for the fire chief? Everyone's good? All right, so I think maybe we should vote on this as is, and then we can have a discussion about potentially adding to the staff, and if we need to go back and revisit this at a later date, we can do that.
I
All right,
move
is
we
there a
approve
motion? Go
I
ahead.
move we approve the fire EMS budget.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Don,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. All right, excellent. Okay, and I don't requests for you this year, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, so do we want to have the discussion now on additional staff? Did you want to bring that up tonight, or is that a topic for a different?
Yes, I'm actually going to invite in Deputy Amendola, who I'm hoping is on here to discuss that. He's put in a tremendous amount of work in a presentation or discussion points on adding additional staff. So, Deputy, you on with us?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay. I will stop my video and you have the floor.
All right. So I've been the deputy chief for a year and a half now. In that time, I've kind of looked at where we are as a department in comparison to some of the other departments and some of the general standards of NFPA 1720, which is the consensus standard that a volunteer accommodation department uses. And we found a few kind of gaps of our services and some things that we can improve upon. Generally speaking, when we went to the ALS system, that was a tremendous increase in our ability to provide service for the community. We now have just about 24/7 coverage with 2 people in the building at all times. There are some times, especially during holidays or weekends, where we have a hard time meeting that staffing goal due to the fact that we are relying on per diem and call members to come in, and it's kind of hard to get someone to come in on Christmas when they're not a full-time employee. So with that, I don't have the exact numbers, but looking at the town of Bolton, the amount of open space, I know that can be a sensitive topic, but there could be a significant increase in the amount of houses that are built in town, more households. We've seen an increase in commercial growth in town, and it doesn't matter where you are in the country. There's a national shortage of firefighter and EMTs and paramedics, especially call volunteer members. On average, a call during the day for a fire call, we would be lucky to get 3 at the high end. Obviously, once in a while could get more, but 3 people for a reported building fire is drastically and dangerously low. It doesn't really meet the NFPA standards at all. We're lacking. We're showing a gap on our inspectional services ability. A lot of communities offer rough inspections on new construction houses, and that can tend to save the homeowner, the contractor money by essentially we can go to a house and say, your smoke detector should be here or here. This should be here or here before the building's finished. But when it's rough, it studs. Matter of fact, I want to say around Christmas time, we had an issue where a house had to almost redo everything because we weren't able to provide that service for the rough inspection. As far as inspections, other than the normal house sales, the 26Fs, the smoke and CO, we're only meeting the benchmark of liquor license inspections, where we're not really inspecting other commercial buildings in town, which does create a safety gap within the community. With that, we definitely need more people during the day to provide the fire suppression service, as well as that dedicated inspectional services. The last gap I'll kind of mention where we're lacking is since we've gotten so big with our EMS department in size, a dedicated person to order supplies in an effective manner, to not over order or under order, quality assurance to ensure that all of our providers are up to where they need to be. I think that the chief and the full-time lieutenant do a great job, but unfortunately, the chief at this point with his all the administrative duties, and that full-time lieutenant firefighter EMT is pulled away to staff the ambulance regularly. So we're missing inspections. We're not available to provide that level of service that I think the customers of Bolton need. With that, if you have any questions for me.
So, how many full-time folks are you suggesting to add?
Right now, I think the most prudent way would be to hire 4 total, have 1 person remain on days to be that dedicated fire prevention person, run the EMS system, and then taking the full-time person that we already have and 3 additional would create at least one firefighter paramedic in the building at all times. The other benefit of that too is with still leveraging some of our per diem staff, we would be able to get a 3-person fire engine out the door with an incident commander during the day. In the event of a building fire, someone trapped in the building, we'd be able to safely and effectively meet that standard and goal.
Okay. Well, thanks for the information. I appreciate you presenting that, and that it's very informative for us as we're looking through the numbers. I assume that this is a select board decision on whether or not we can bring on additional folks, and then, you know, we would look at the budget impacts of that.
Correct. That I would defer that to the chief as far as how that would work, but I would assume that would be a select board decision.
Correct. We just wanted to come tonight. So when we do move forward, there are no surprises. We're out ahead of it. Our methodology of why we came up with what we did, and try to just be proactive, so we don't catch you later in the process.
Right. So Stan or Bob, do you have a sense on when the decision might be made, and you know, is this something that we'll need to consider before town meeting, at least reviewing the budget before town meeting?
Well, this is Stan. I mean, I don't think we have seen any detailed stats on this new request, and I think one thing I need to see is you know, what are the percentages of where we're lacking in terms of inspections not being made, or you know, a lag in response times for these both, you know, homeowner inspections, commercial inspections, and what's the issues in terms of rolling out with less than 3 people on a call for a fire. So I don't think we have that information yet. Bob, you know,
I said, this is the first I'm hearing about it.
yeah.
So I'm not prepared to, you know, pass any judgment. I mean, I'm also surprised to hear that the turnout among the call firefighters has dropped down so much. That's the first time I'm hearing that, if I heard that correctly. So there's a whole bunch of issues around this proposal. Would it get resolved by the end of March? It's possible, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess until we get more information, to your point, Bob, I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing this, so.
Okay, from the advisory committee perspective, again, though, thanks for the information and the heads up. And you know, if this is something that we need to address before town meeting, we're happy to do that. And we'll just stand by and
Yeah.
wait to see what happens.
And we can definitely provide more information on a percentage basis or a more factual basis. Tonight was much more of a overview and an assessment, let you guys know of the gaps and where not and whatnot, and we can definitely give you that information in a more formal manner.
Okay,
Thank
great. Thank you. Okay, so I think that's all we have for fire EMS. So thanks for joining, and you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting, or you can drop if you'd like to. Okay, so I don't see Brian Stearns here. Is there anyone representing the veterans agent? Okay, so we will defer that to a future meeting.
I can tell you it's a level funded budget. I don't know if that's, as far as I know, it's the benefit, the number of people hasn't changed unless they know something different than I do.
Yeah, actually, why don't I just pull it up?
I think they, at least on some of the big numbers, they looked on track.
Right. Okay, just a minor wages increase. Okay, so it looks, I don't think this will be controversial at all, but it would still be nice for Brian to explain to everyone what his budget's made up of and where the money goes. So we'll address that at a future meeting. In terms of other advisory committee business, I think we're up to date on minutes other than last week's meeting. And I have seen no transfer requests as of this evening.
Nope. They, I think DPW is good for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
Wait, I missed it. That's the wood.
Natska, you're
Knock on
wearing out
plaster.
that wall back there.
Close enough. No, it's good.
Not sure. Were we
There's wood
okay?
behind there.
Were we okay with the 30,000 ARPA fund switch from that you had discussed
Yep.
last?
Yep, the select board voted on that, and
Great.
yeah, that should be fine. And
Great.
Stan, I'll get you that spreadsheet too.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything? All right. I think that's it for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, great. Thanks, everyone.